Chapter 5, Spirit Flyer Series. Come on. Not chapter 6, chapter 5. Come on. Let's get with it. Get with the program here. Okay. Join the club. If you realize, remember, Daniel Bailey has been forcibly made to go to a party at the Smedlow's house, and his mother accepted the invitation for him, made him go so that he could make friends and join clubs, which he doesn't want to do. And so now he went home and did not go back to the party. This chapter is titled, and Smedlow had an emergency meeting to talk about inviting Daniel Bailey to join their Cobra Club, the Dead Man's Club, as John Kramer calls it. Okay, join the club. See if there's any pictures in this one. I'm not seeing any. See if we had any last one. There should have been. Oh yeah, there was one with him falling. I don't remember if I showed that one or not, but that's when the chair collapses. He is dumped back and his food falls over his chest. His ketchup, the mustard, and the baked beans are dripping down his chest. So he went home to change and did not go back to the nasty party. Now I got to find chapter 5 again. Join the club. Okay, here we go. Anybody on? Gadianton, probably. Sup, come on. Chime in. Say who it is. All right, whatever. Join the club. Monday morning started the first regular work week for the Bailey family. Where's my coffee? I got coffee. I don't have any water, though. Okay. Daniel's mother had get the crud out of my throat. Come on. Daniel's mother had hired an older woman named Mrs. Jenkins to clean house and watch the children part of the day. Daniel thought he was too old to be watched by a babysitter, but his mother insisted it was only until school started in the fall. Daniel didn't have to stay home the whole day, so that gave him at least some satisfaction. These Goliath toys are valuable, Denise said at breakfast on Monday morning. Of course they're valuable, Mrs. Bailey replied. You want to get demon possessed, right? I don't mean just price, Denise explained. They're kind of collector's items here in Centerville. Most all the kids are collecting them. They're real popular and in style. I heard Barry Smedlow has the biggest collection of Goliath toys. He bought up every combo gizmo in town. Supposedly, no one knows why. I have one, Daniel said. He hadn't even taken the odd-looking toy out of the box. The first practice of the new sports league is this evening, Denise said. Well, I want both of you to be on time, Mrs. Bailey said. I also have some good news. I found out that Daniel is on the same team as Barry and the other boys in his club. But that's not the best news. Mrs. Smedlow brunched with us yesterday morning, and she said Barry wants you to join his little club. Are you kidding? Daniel asked. Barry set me up with his broken chair. But that was just an accident, his mother said. No, it wasn't, Daniel replied. Since his mother was supposed to know so much about other people's characters, Daniel couldn't understand why his mother didn't see right through a guy like Barry. Well, if the other boys were having a little fun, you shouldn't take it so personally, Mrs. Bailey said. You're too sensitive. Boys your age like to tease each other. It's like a game. You should just play along and act like these things don't bother you. I'd like to see you play along with a plate full of baked beans and cheeseburger on your chest, Daniel grunted. I don't like their kind of names. Don't get a sour attitude before you give them a chance, Mrs. Bailey instructed. I'm getting out of here, Denise said. I hate to hear you two argue. I'm discussing. Daniel is arguing, Mrs. Bailey said as Denise walked out of the kitchen. Right. No, Daniel's discussing. Mom is arguing. I met some people I liked, the Kramer kids. But you don't want me to give them a chance, Daniel accused. He had been thinking of Susan Kramer all weekend. He kept seeing her face and a mysterious smile. Falling in love, are we? That's a different matter altogether, Mrs. Bailey said, sitting up straight. Her voice took on a businesslike tone. I've been asking around about those children. Their father is a sheriff here. He's rubbed a few of the more important people in town the wrong way. Smedlow thinks Centerville needs a new sheriff, so those Kramer kids might not even be around town past the next election. That's only a few months away, so you might as well make friends with kids who are going to be here, like the kids in Buckingham Estates. Because they have a lot of money, right? Daniel asked. It's not just money, Mrs. Bailey said. I want you to be able to thrive in the right atmosphere. People act like they're friends, and if you have friends with low standards, then you adopt low standards yourself. That's just a social fact of life. And you think joining a club with a bunch of nasty, jerky guys will give me high standards? Daniel asked. All I'm saying is that you have to expect children to play a few tricks on newcomers. That's just the way the game of life is played, like it or not. But I want to play with. Don't use that tone of voice with me, young man, his mother said crossly. I've done some thinking, and ever since you got that junky old bicycle, you've gotten a bad attitude. You used to like being popular and having a lot of friends. I have a good mind to take that junky old bicycle to the dump where it belongs. You can't do that, Daniel almost shouted. Oh, yes, I can, Mrs. Bailey replied firmly. But by the look in her eyes, Daniel could see she meant it. I have legal custody of you children, and I can raise you as I see fit. I think that bicycle is unhealthy for you. I'm tempted to just go call the junk man right now. He'll come back. Daniel was speechless with fear. He knew his mother didn't like the Spirit Flyer, but he didn't think she'd try to go that far. He felt his face getting hot. You wouldn't really do that, Daniel stammered. He couldn't think straight. Oh no, his mother asked. I would go live with Dad, Daniel said in desperation. Dad would not do something like that. We get to choose where we want to live when we are 14, don't we? Mrs. Bailey stiffened. Daniel could see that he had hit home. Though Daniel didn't know all the details of his parents' divorce, he did remember the day he sat down in the somber, book-filled office with their parents and their lawyers and the judge. He had secretly hoped at the last minute that his parents would somehow get back together again, but his hopes were completely broken when the judge, an older man, told Daniel and Denise about their visitation rights in custody. Part of the agreement was that Daniel was 14. He could choose to live with his father if he wanted. Ever since that day, Daniel had felt like he was in the middle, being pulled in opposite directions. His parents seemed like two dogs fighting over the same bone. He didn't think any of it was fair. Note to self, don't eat poison ivy before you read. Don't need a bigger leaf of poison ivy. Slightly irritating my throat. Oh well. Are you trying to blackmail me, young man? Mrs. Bailey asked, her chin quivering. Daniel could tell she was suddenly about to cry again. Her eyes were wet. Daniel felt the waves of bad feeling coming over him like a hot, dark blanket. Well, you're trying to get rid of my bike, Daniel said, his own voice cracking with emotion. That's not fair. All I want is what's best for you, Mrs. Bailey said, wiping her eyes. You used to be so popular and happy. That's all I want for you. What about the Kramer kids? Daniel asked. I want you to give Barry and his friends a chance first, Daniel, his mother replied, sniffling. You could just join their club and see what it's like. Bend a little for my sake, Daniel. Daniel couldn't hear Bear looking at his mother's pitiful face anymore. Pitiful is right. He knew she would cry any second, gaslighting. That's what narcissists do that are trying to control you. Okay, I'll try to be friends with those creepy guys. I know. With those guys, Daniel said with a sigh. Daniel felt desperate to get the ugly bad feeling off himself. Maybe I could ride the super wings every other day, too. I'm just afraid everyone will see you as some sort of oddball riding that junky old bicycle, Mrs. Bailey said quickly. You're already self-conscious about your limp. But what's done is done. The Super Wings is really a nice bike, and I'm sure you'll fit in much better with the other children with that bike than with that junky old Spirit Flyer. Don't you agree? Where he used to live, several kids had said mean things. I suppose, Daniel said. He knew that what his mother was talking about. Where he used to live, several kids had said mean things about the Spirit Flyer, and the remarks had hurt, too. Daniel sighed with confusion. Life seemed so hard. Mrs. Bailey wiped her eyes and patted Daniel on the back. She seemed back to her normal self, and Daniel felt grateful. I know you wouldn't disappoint me, his mother said. Now I've got to go to the office. Be nice to Mrs. Jenkins. I'm off. I should have a bottle of water in here somewhere. Yeah, I don't think. Let me check. Come on. I love water. I love water. Oh well. Darn. The Kroba Club was in session again in the Smedlin's garage at the same time. and the boys were arguing. Barry Huck called the meeting again because he had failed to convince the club on Saturday night to ask Daniel to join the club. But he's a gimp, Alvin protested. He's probably a real idiot besides. No, he's not, Barry said. I heard my father talking to my mother, and he's a real whiz kid. My dad sees their grades and records, and he knows. He'll be in the gifted classes for sure, my dad said. He said Daniel's record is really special. And he's probably one of those know-it-all guys, Doug said. Samantha Perkins is in that gifted group, and she thinks she's so hot. And she's just in the third grade. Okay, third grade? I kind of thought these were older kids. Oh well. I was thinking 12, 13, but third grade would be about 9 years old. Whatever. You're just jealous because she can read better than you, Barry said. Anybody can read better than Doug, Freddie said and giggled. He's in the low group. I am not, Doug said. I got out of that group last April. Did your parents bribe the teacher, Freddie asked. You better shut your mouth or I'll shut it for you, Doug said. He stood up with his hands clenched in fists. He turned toward Freddie. Cool off, Barry said. We're not talking about Doug. We're talking about Daniel. I say he's club material and I want to ask him to join. But why? Alvin asked. Alvin was a short boy with a rather big nose, and the other boys sometimes called him Nose. Alvin didn't like it, but he never complained too much because he didn't want to be kicked out of the club. I just think he's club material, that's all, Barry said. Besides, he's got a Goliath Super Wings bicycle. That must mean he's okay. Those are supposed to be really great bikes. Mrs. Happy told me about them. She also said it would be good for us if we let him join. How would it be good for us, Doug grunted. She just said it would be a lot of points in our favor if we can turn him, as she put it, Barry said. I don't know what all she meant, but she's an important lady in this town, and I think we need to listen to her. Besides, he can afford the new higher dues the Cobra Club is charging. What higher dues? Doug asked. No one ever said anything about higher dues to me, or me either, replied Freddie. Relax, Barry said with a big smile. You guys are charter members, but from now on, we'll be charging twice the original dues, maybe even 3 times. We'll all benefit. The club can be in 2 levels, officers and members, sort of like an army. We'll be the officers, and anyone from here on out will just be the members. They'll pay a higher price dues. That's the new rules. The other boys thought for a moment, and then began to grin and nod at one another. Barry smiled. I second the motion we asked Daniel Bailey to join the club, Doug said. Good, Barry said. Now let's give him a chance. You were the one who let him sit in that broken chair, Doug said. The other boys began to giggle. So did Barry. Well, we have to act nice anyway, Barry said. Then he smiled as a new idea sprang into the boy's mind. Even if he is gimpy the limpy, we need someone to boss around a little bit. We can make him pass an initiation test to join. Lots of clubs make their members do stuff to prove themselves. It'll be fun. But what should we do? Alvin asked. The boys were quiet for a moment. Then Barry began to grin. We could talk about it on the way to his house, Barry said. Let's go. The boys all grinned at once, hopped on their bicycles, and followed their leader into the street. Daniel was ready to go exploring. He went down to the garage. The 2 bikes leaned on their kickstands side by side. Even though his mother was at work, Daniel could feel her right beside him, as if she were a ghost. I know you won't disappoint me, he heard her say. He sighed and reluctantly went over to the Goliath Super Wings and knocked up the kickstand. He felt like a traitor because he didn't ride the old Red Spirit Flyer. Yet he would have felt just as bad by picking it instead of the Super Wings. He could only ride one bike at a time, he felt himself angry with frustration. Daniel opened the small side door and pushed the shiny new bike outside. The morning was already getting hot. He was surprised to see Barry and the other boys pedaling up to his house. Barry stared a long time at the golden Goliath Super Wings bicycle. He licked his lips. We came to see you, Barry said with a smile. I'm sorry about my lame ass trick I pulled on you. Oh. I'm sorry about my little prank. The little prank, how do you say? I'm sorry about that little prank we played, but I've got some great news. We want you to join the Cobra Club. Oh, Daniel said flatly. He wondered if Barry was really sorry. Once again, it was as if his mother were standing right behind him. Daniel decided to give the boys a chance. Let's go to the clubhouse for the initiation, Barry said. Maybe you could let me ride the Goliath Super Wing sometime, too. Daniel pedaled faster to catch up with Barry. They pedaled down Oak Street till they came to 10th Street. As they rounded the corner heading east, Daniel saw the two children approaching on red bicycles. It's those Kramers, Barry shouted back at the club. The boys began laughing and get excited. We haven't seen who's chicken in quite a while, Barry said. He stood up on his pedals and named straight for Susan Kramer. Come on, the other boys yelled and hooted and followed their leader. Daniel pedaled after them, hoping no one would get hurt. He was 20 feet behind the boys when they roared past Susan and John Kramer, forcing them to a stop on the side of the street. Daniel pedaled up slowly. Hi, he said, smiling nervously. We were just coming to see you, Susan Kramer said. She stared at Daniel's golden Goliath bicycle. Her face looked unhappy. You must have made a mistake about you. I wish I had some water. Burn it. Thought I had one down here. Yeah. Hello, Dawn. Time out. I've got to roll. I've been rocking but not rolling. I need to rock and roll. I've got my hammock chair that I rock in, but I need to roll in the cot here. It's hurting. My back's hurting. Soft care. I think it stands for soft ass care. I don't know. Anyway, that's my pillow. My neck pillow. I've got a car pillow in here. I need to find it. Big, heavy, thick foam thing is really great. I loved it. Wore it a lot on a lot of long trips. If I could sleep while I was driving. By the way, a flashlight behind a gallon of water or vinegar, as the case may be, gives you a good diffused lighting that'll light up a whole tent or room. Working pretty good there. Okay, back to reading. Oh crap, I lost my place. I lost my place. We must have made a mistake about you, John Kramer added. I didn't know you were a member of the Cobra Club. You didn't tell us you had a Goliath bicycle, too. But I'm not really a member of their club, Daniel said defensively. But you're riding around with him, aren't you? Susan asked. She smiled at him and seemed confused. Where's your Spirit Flyer? Well, it's kind of hard to explain, Daniel muttered and coughed. I've got two bicycles. Since my mom works for Goliath and all, she likes me to ride the Goliath bike, too. You understand, don't you? The troubled look on Susan's face cut at John's heart. She stared at the golden bicycle and frowned. So you're not a member of the Cobra Club? John Kramer demanded. No. Daniel said he was about to explain the situation when Barry yelled. Come on, Danny, Barry shouted it from down the street. You want to go with them or not? Not really. Be honest. Susan asked. She stared into his eyes so mysteriously it made Daniel feel funny inside. Blood thing again. I want to go with you guys, Daniel said honestly. Then let's go get your Spirit Flyer, John replied. We can fly out to my dad's old workshop. I think we've made an interesting discovery. Yeah, there's more danger with Goliath Industries than we first thought, Susan added. Hey, Danny, come on, Barry yelled again. Before Daniel could say anything else, Barry pedaled down the street and coasted up to the group. The other boys in the club were right behind him. You don't want to be talking to these chicken Kramers. We need to get to the clubhouse so we can initiate you into the Cobra Club. Everything's ready. We don't have time for these idiots. So you are one of them, John Kramer accused. Daniel felt his face turning red. He looked at Susan, but her eyes had suddenly gone cold with disappointment. Of course he's with us, Barry grunted. You don't think he'd hang around with a bunch of losers like you guys? Daniel felt trapped. He looked at Susan helplessly, but she looked down. John Kramer was glaring at Daniel. Let's go, John, Susan said softly. She looked up at Daniel and shook her head and began pedaling away. I guess we had you figured all wrong, John grunted. He pedaled to catch up with Susan. The two children pedaled their old red bicycles down the street. Daniel's chest was pounding as he watched them ride away. More than anything, he wanted to go with after them, but without his Spirit Flyer bicycle, he knew he didn't belong. Let me get it, did. Come on, Danny, Barry pleaded. It's time you rode with the winners in this town. Daniel watched the Kramers until they turned the corner and were gone. He sighed and rode after the other boys. Okay, what's going on here? Peer pressure and all that. Jazz, malarkey, stupidity. Let me think backwards. There's this phrase there I wanted to talk about. Okay, I have to look it up. Come on. Oh yeah. John is giving him such a hard time from the first time he met him. He made more stupid mistakes than John. And when I make a stupid mistake, I admit it. I'll say I'm an idiot. The other day I was talking to a guy here. What I did was stupid. I mean, it was dumb. And I did it without counsel. For the fourth time, I made a deal without counsel. Without asking. There is safety in a multitude of counselors. Read those. There's several ways that's phrased in Proverbs, but I like the one, in multitude of counselors there is safety. Imoctis. I-M-O-C-T-I-S. Imoctis. In multitude of counselors there is safety. And several times it's just the timing and everything is like spiritual warfare, like these books, Timing was bad. Like one day I was going to do a deal, and Bill's brother was dying. And Bill has a lot of worldly wisdom, he knows finance, he knows money. I bought a trader. I'd give him $400, $450, $400, I think it was. And he still had $250 left. So I said, well, can I get the $200 back? He said, that's what it's here for. I said, holding it for you. So I bought a trader without asking his permission or his advice. And he told me that any trader with a leak in it, do not buy. It's just a nightmare. And it was a nightmare. It's a piece of junk now. It's just scrap metal. If anyone wants to fix it, they can have it. But that was one of them. I was buying a mobile home trailer. And he had to leave the room right as we were about ready to sign the contract. And he left because his brother was dying. He had to take a phone call. So I didn't get any advice on that one. And that really sucked. That was a bad deal. That was number 2 or number 3. That was 2. Third one, yeah, another bad deal. Made a deal, didn't put my wishes into the deal, and they weren't written down. And the one stipulation I had was that, the occupant would not be told about it. So the deal went down as it was the other person's idea that was buying it. And within 2 weeks, he told the occupant that he was buying it. Well, that was not part of the deal. Now suddenly they're not paying rent. They're not paying anything, anybody. They're using the cabin free of charge. Very bad deal, very bad deal. Grasshoppers take your resources. And Jezebel always will take possession of things that she does not own. And boy howdy, I've seen that repeatedly. I've seen that once, twice, 3 times, 4, 5. I think this is the 5th or 6th time I've seen that. People, 5th, 6th time. People take possession of things that they don't have ownership of. They possess them. They move in. They take over. And that is a Jezebel. That's a classic hallmark sign to me of Jezebel. Jezebel, what'd she do? She took over an orchard that she did not own. She took possession of an orchard she did not own by committing murder. And anybody that will steal, anybody that will take offense will steal anything. Take offense, get it? Offense. And anybody that will take offense will steal anything. So they're willing to kill to do it. And that's my, I live by principle, biblical principle. And there's a lot of them in operation here, and a lot of them being broken right now. So, sucks for the person doing it, sucks for the person stealing, sucks for the person lying, sucks for the person that is taking possession of things they don't own. So, and breaking contracts and lying and backstabbing and sowing discord among brethren. There's 6 things that Yahweh hates. 7 are on abomination to him. The 7th one is them that sow discord among brethren, and there's a lot of that going on right now. A lot of it. So. All right, I'm done. See if anybody's on. Gad's on. I ain't seen Mr. Ray Sova, and I have not seen Zap and Kaboom for quite a while. What happened to you? Zapping. Come in sometime. 10-4, Earth to Zappin', Earth to Zappin', come on. No comments? Come on, that's not right. No comments at all. Oh, there, yeah. Sup, Mon? Yeah. Boy. Good night. Good night. Good night. Sweet type. Not gonna say nothing about no damn bed bugs. There's Bug MD. Bug. Bug MD. That's what it's called. I got some. I'll try it out. Supposed to kill bed bugs and everything. Good night. Love you guys. Gonna meet someday, brother. Get together. Yeah, coming. Going to Springfield tomorrow. Want to go? Wemail might work. Rotate device. No, I'm not rotating the device. I'm going to turn it off.